what's up guys? Shawnthebro here. You're going to hear that intro twice in this episode, so lucky you. I just want to give you a quick note before we start the actual episode. So the action RPG tutorial, which you just clicked into, is actually my third-person tutorial. So there's about 7 episodes before this that are related to it and to how we got to this point. And I'll be linking them in the episode, so don't worry about that. The reason I bring it up is this episode in particular will be a little bit more like discombobulated, a little bit less formal, because I was having trouble kind of getting the proper balance between the third person tutorial and the action RPG, because I wanted to catch newcomers up to the series. I wanted to catch up like what we had done so far, but then still implement something new. I didn't want to have an episode like, oh yeah, this is what we did in this other series. I wanted to continue the series, but I wanted to just change the name of it, so that way we have an actual end goal as opposed to just random third-person games. Anyway, I won't eat up too much of your time, but I just want to say, so I apologize if it's a little bit more confusing than my other episodes. I try and keep them very short and to the point for you guys, at least as much as I feel is necessary. But this one I had a hard time doing because I was kind of caught in that weird ground. So this is going to be episode 1 of the Action RPG series, but I renamed the other ones to be Action RPG. To avoid confusion, believe it or not, it's weird. Anyway, we're going to be going over stats in this episode. So, stats, leveling up, and how to basically make it so we can use upgrade points to level up in a menu system, okay? So anyway, hope you enjoy the video. Next one will be better, more put together, more like my usual videos. But thanks for listening to me rant, or whatever this is. And let's get started. What's up guys, Shawnthebro here. Today we're going to be working on the Action RPG series, which is actually the third-person tutorial series. Basically, it finally got its name now, and don't worry about all this stuff on the screen. I know there's a lot going on. We're going to go through it step by step. If you're not here from the third-person tutorial series and you're here to start with the Action RPG stuff, don't worry. We'll be working on that in about 2 or 3 minutes, but I will go over everything that we have in the past. And then I will link the episodes with iCards so you know what's going on. So, basically, for those who know me and have seen my tutorials and seen the third-person tutorial specifically, we are continuing the third-person tutorial. Nothing is changing. However, I wanted to make it more specific so we kind of know the direction we're going. And we started getting questions about very specific topics on how we were going to do this in third person, how we're going to do that, and simply we can't do all of them without knowing the direction we're going. So I decided the most voted on in the Discord category to go to was an action RPG style game. So this is the third person tutorial. As I said, we're converting it to action RPG, as you'll see the action RPG elements in the top left, and I'm going to show you how to do all that. For those that are new to the series, we got a lot going on here. So I don't have the character HUD spawning right now just because I wanted to make room for some of the other stuff that I did. But basically in the third person tutorial series we had fine aim like this where you can change your camera angle. We had weapon pickups, so you can actually go up here, press a key and select the actual button that you want. So basically when you select these weapons, it actually does equip it in your inventory, so to say. We just don't have any meshes or anything like that. So you can go ahead and collect these if you want. These, okay, so the red balls make you take damage, the green ones heal you, and the blue give you shields. That was another episode. Again, these will keep getting linked in the iCards in the top right if you're interested in doing any of these. Sprinting, you know, running faster. And there was a character HUD one, which I can show you at the end of this episode. But right now, let's get into the actual purpose of this episode. So now that we're all caught up, we are making an action RPG game, as I said, for probably the 3rd or 4th time now. Who knows? So what we're going to do this time is basically just set up stats, as well as actually assigning them as if this were a stat screen, leveling up, dealing with all this random stuff that kind of goes into the action RPG genre. That way we can fully convert our third-person tutorial into an action RPG game. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll get started. It should make sense along the way if it doesn't already. Basically, last thing I'll say before we get into the code, Action RPG in this sense refers to Dark Souls, Kingdom Hearts, The Witcher, any sort of RPG where you're relying on stats and skills going from leveling up, but also they come from items and things like that. And it's not strategy RPG. It's actually action RPG, which means you're basically always in control of your character. It's not turn-based, nothing like that. So just so that everybody's on the same page, RPG is a very wide term, and you know it's kind of weird to convert this series like that. Especially, it doesn't help. This is technically called the Gears of War tutorial. When you look at the code, like if you look at my code, it is called Gears of War template character. So we're all over the place, but anyway, I wanted to get all that out of the way since we did this big change now and moved over. So, as I said, what we're focusing on today is stats. So, if you're from the third-person tutorial, great, you can keep everything we had. I'm not getting rid of it. We're going to use it in the future in the Action RPG tutorial series. So, if you're not, though, I'll make sure to not require anything from the previous episodes for going forward. That way, it's not necessary that you watch the previous episodes if you're not interested to make your action RPG game. So you'll see I've added a lot of stuff, but basically, since this is a new series, if you go File, New Project, from Unreal, we are using the C++ third-person template. You can name it here. You can keep all this stuff the same and create your project. You'll have a character class. So if you go to C++ classes, Gears of War template, you'll have a character class in here. And by the way, if you don't have this little content window, it's this little button on the side here. So go ahead and open your character class. That's where we'll get started today. Okay. So your character class will have a lot of this stuff. Again, a lot of this stuff I added, like sprint and zoom in and equip item, all this stuff. However, it's not necessary for now. We're just going to go over stats, leveling up, that sort of thing. So we're going to set up the groundwork for everything we're going to use in the future episodes. For now, I just added 3 random stat categories. You can call them whatever you want. You'll probably have a lot more than 3. But I went ahead and said strength, dexterity, and intellect. So why did I choose these? Literally no reason. It's the top 3 that popped into my head when I said stats. You can use whatever you want, doesn't matter. In fact, they're not even going to actually do anything today. We're just setting them up and being able to assign them values. So, pick some values. Go ahead, add your U property here. Again, if you're new to the series, U property makes it so variables in the code can be seen in Blueprint, which is Unreal's visual scripting language. We'll get to in a second. So, just make some variables. Int current level refers to, the current level of the player. If we're going to be leveling the player up, even if it's subliminally, right? So even if it's not right in your face, you are level 30. Maybe you get enough experience or complete some task and you get a new skill or you get a new upgrade point. That's essentially a level. So we can keep a current level. We can keep our amount of upgrade points, which is what I'm calling them. These are skill points, level up points, whatever. And then our stats, which I mentioned earlier, strength value, dexterity value, intellect value. So these could be, 0 to 10, whatever. The rest of the stuff is stuff that we've already set up. I would recommend for newcomers to the series to still make some player health, potentially player armor, like a shield. And up above, I had made... One second where I could find it. And I would recommend making a take damage function. You don't really need the start healing. We could use heal function as well. Take damage, heal. I'll show you what they are in a second, but I'd recommend making them for an action RPG anyway. Okay, so let's get into the actual code on the C++ side of things. So for newcomers, again, CPP file is where you're going to be doing most of your logic. The .h, which is the header file, is where you're going to be doing a lot of your assignments and your creation of variables and things like that. Alrighty, so this is your constructor, your first template, or excuse me, your first function, whatever this is. It'll be the project name character at the end. So mine, I happen to call my Gears of War. So yeah, we're already down that rabbit hole, so let's just keep going. Gears of War template character. So if you scroll down to the bottom of your constructor, this is generally where you're going to put your variables to assign them for the initial, you know, when the character is spawned, when they first load, when they're created, whatever. As you save, obviously you'll load in your new stats and things like that, and that's fine, but as far as new characters go, these are the defaults that you're going to use. I've set my other defaults in here. Again, feel free to use them, feel free to not. I set current level to 1, upgrade points to 5, so you have a little bit of, you know, freedom, and strength, dexterity, and intellect all to 1. Feel free to mix them up as you choose, have different classes that mix them, whatever you want. Just make sure you set them in here so they're not 0. If you are taking my advice and adding health and, you know, being able to heal and take damage, then you should also have a player health variable that's a float, so we can use it in the HUD, and then set it to whatever value you want. You should probably set it to 1 or at least 100, one of the two. That way you can have full health when you start, but, you know, maybe you don't want that. Short overview, we're not going to be dealing with this today, but the setup player input component function is where you can add controls. So if you're in the editor, you can go to edit, and I'm going to close this. Oh, it's a little less sloppy. Okay. You can go to edit, project settings, input, and then here you go. You can see everything you need to see here in terms of your controls. So I have added a bunch of these. In fact, the only two that were here are jump and reset VR. You'll see these as well if you're in the current version of Unreal, or the current version when this video is being made, which is 4.24. You also get to see move forward, move right, turn, look up, and axis mappings. So I haven't added anything to the axis mappings, but I have added things to the action mappings. Action mappings are buttons, axis mappings are things that have different values, such as joysticks, or, yeah, pretty much joysticks. So, okay. What you do here is you press the little plus to add a new one, like this. You name it whatever you want, and then you go select the key that you want. So, for example, for heal, I have H. H is my heal key. Great. Now, when I go into the setup player input component function, I can copy the text that's already here. There's a bunch here when you load up the template. Just copy one, change the text to heal. Make sure it matches the exact name that you put in the editor thing we just had open. And then you just change if it's pressed or released. So when I press the heal button, I want to start healing right away. Then we're going to call a function. We're going to call start healing. So start healing, you won't have yet if you haven't been following a third-person tutorial series, but you saw it up above in the header file, and give me 1 second, sorry, and here you go. This is what start healing does. So you can actually see the logic there and implement it on your own if you're interested. If you don't care, great. Just wanted to give you that little overview. So let's get into what we're actually doing today other than that. Now that we have all our stats, and we all set them to be visible and editable in Blueprint, such as you see here, all these edit anywhere, blueprint, read, write stuff, we can go into the blueprint and actually modify the stats based on, so this is the stat assignment window. So assuming, you know, basically there's got to be a way you're going to upgrade your stats. Now, it could be passive. So, I leveled up so I get these bonuses, and that's fine. But if you're going to be doing some sort of game where this is the first screen we pop up to, let's go ahead and change our stats around, give our players stats. Or this could also work as the upgrade screen. Okay, we've leveled up, let's upgrade our stats. If you can upgrade strength, dex, or intellect by default, you know, you don't need like special skills, you can just go change a value. That's what this is here for. So I went ahead and put it right over the main gameplay here. Now normally you would have this in the main menu. We just haven't set one up yet, but it doesn't really matter actually where you put this, just as long as you have a reference to the character. So right now, if you don't have a main menu or any sort of menu flow, it'll be much easier to do this right over top like I did. Just a quick note, if you want to test any HUDs quickly without having any sort of menu flow, go to Blueprints, Open Level Blueprint, and then you can go ahead and spawn stuff using this method. So originally I had the HUD up here, which I can show you what it looks like real quick. This is what the HUD looks like, and I'll show you. Damage, right? Damage to my shields. So if I take enough damage, I start losing health. I can heal my health and heal my shields. But if I heal my shields again, you'll see I'm always missing that health until I actually heal. Whoops. If I wasn't bad at my own game, that would help. Here we go. The reason I show that is I just wanted to let you know that this is another episode you could watch if you're interested in these sort of mechanics for your action RPG. We will go into them in more depth as the series goes on, but that's what we got right now. Alrighty, so what we're going to do in the level blueprint, if you want to see your HUD or your stat assignment window that we're making now, is, well, actually you have to make the widget first. Let me show you how to do that. Go into whatever folder you want. I made a folder called Blueprints. I made one called Widgets, but you can do it right on the home page. This does not matter. This is for you and for organization. Add new. You can't see it because it's at the bottom of my screen, but if you go all the way down to the bottom item here, it says User Interface and then Widget Blueprint. You can see Font and Slate Brush. It's the fourth one down. It's Widget Blueprint. Very bottom. You make a new one. It'll have you type in the name, and then it'll open up for you. So I called mine Stat Assignment Window. Now that it's created, we can do the level blueprint thing. Open the level blueprint, right click, say create widget right here. It'll come up empty like this. You have to select a class. It'll have all your classes, widgets, C++, and blueprint classes. So go ahead and choose your new widget. Stat assignment window for me. I've already done it. It's right here. You can plug in Get Player Controller, and if you want to do that, you just right click and type Get Player Controller. You don't actually have to do this in a single player game. This is more for multiplayer, local multiplayer, or if you want to handle this with multiple player controllers for one player, because that's also a thing you can do. Anyway, point is, you don't need this. Feel free to do this as a little safety check. I'm kind of used to doing it because of the environments I've worked in, but it's not necessary. Make sure you drag off the return value and just type add to viewport right here. There you go. And drag your code flow through. Once you're done with that, compile, save. Now your widget will be spawning in your level when you load it. So when you press play, you'll be able to see your widget. You don't have this stuff here yet, obviously, so you won't be able to see that. Now let's actually set up our widget, and then we'll be able to see how the stats actually work, how we can assign them, how we can use our levels, all that kind of good junk. And we'll finish out this episode so that next episode we can work on straight action RPG mechanics and not worrying about what we already have set up, what we need to set up, things like that. Okay, so in a basic widget here, it doesn't really matter how you set this up. This is all just for show. You do need to make sure that, you know, the player can actually read it, but it doesn't matter for now, especially if you're just testing this functionality out so you can learn it. There's two important parts here. Actually, there's only one important part, really, and it's the text box. So I did set up a dexterity slider and little buttons for intellect. So obviously you don't want to mix these in your HUD or in your little window there, because that would be very confusing. If you're like, one, you got to type the number, two, you got to use a slider, three, you got to use push buttons to go up and down. You don't want that. But I wanted to showcase different ways you could do it, and also teach you a little bit about all of these so you can choose the way you want. So some games use text box, right? Not really text box for strength. Usually you would use this for more something like your name or your pet's name or something like that. You just type raw text in and it assigns it. Simple enough. We're actually going to use that today to assign the strength. It has been done in games, whether you've seen it or not. It's not, you know, I don't think it's anybody's favorite method, but we're going to do that one today. I'll go over these as well, but I didn't want to pack too much in. So for the strength, go ahead. These are just text boxes for anyone who's curious. Go ahead and add some text boxes. This is, these are text. This is just text. Strength, dexterity, intellect, or text. This is a text box. So they're different. Text box is what people can actually enter into. Players can actually type in here. For dexterity, I have a slider bar. So slider is also what it sounds like. So I'll just give you a little example. Strength, okay, I can type whatever number I want. For dexterity, I can drag this along, and you could display the value right underneath. These are like left and right arrows, so it's like I'm at 1, now I'm at 2, 3, 4, 5, or now I'm at 4, 3, 2, 1, like that. So those are the different ways you could use them. Set them up however you want. Doesn't really matter. Point is, we're going to be showing off how to actually use the stuff from code in your blueprint to make it look fancy and nice. Okay, we got a lot going on here. But it's all going to make sense in a few minutes. So, like I said, in this case, we're ignoring the slider. I put the slider logic way down below and the button logic way down below. You're not going to see it. Don't stress out about it. We're going to be focusing on the text box today. So, I have some logs in here, and I'll show you what the actual result is here. So say I'm playing. This is my menu screen. I created my character. I want to put my strength in. Say I want to put it to 4. Okay, it worked. So you won't be able to see that actually because of where it popped up. But okay, great. I put it to 4. So I'll see if I can print this to the log for you. Yes, we do. Great. So here's how we do that. Here's how we make it so you can enter a value. It checks to see if you have the current amount of upgrade points available to you that are required to go from your current level to the level you're trying to upgrade to. Not as convoluted as it seems. It just takes a bit to understand that there's all these working parts. So when you work with a text box, and you can do this in code pretty much as easily as you can do it in Blueprint. The reason I did it in Blueprint is I try to keep everything HUD or widget related in Blueprint. I'm not a big fan of doing UI in code, although this particular stuff would actually be just as easy in code, if not even easier. But we're going to do it in Blueprint for now. So when you click on your text box, scroll all the way down if you're on the details panel on the right. There's 2 things you have here, 2 events. OnTextChanged and OnTextCommitted. So OnTextChanged is when you type in the box, when anything in here changes, whether it's backspace or A or whatever. It'll pick up any time the text inside the box is changed, and it will perform the logic that you give it here. There's also OnTextCommitted, which means when you press enter. So only the final result, when you're done with it, what are we going to do with it? We're going to use both of them today. Let's start with the OnTextChanged. Because A, it's simpler, and B, it happens before you commit. So, okay. Now, like I said, when you go down here and click on this, it says view now because I made them, but you can hit plus to implement them. Like, I'll show you. It's a little plus here. If you don't have it already in your graph, I already do. So, there you go. It'll have a little text thing. So this text parameter is the text that's in your text box, obviously. So what we can do is kind of make it so they can only print valid strings. So if you wanted to have, okay, you can put your name in here, but you don't want them to be able to put apostrophes or parentheses or symbols or numbers or whatever, then this would work. If you only want numbers in this case, or like we're doing in this case, then this is how we're going to do it. So what we can do is make a variable, just plus variable, and then the type is text right here. It's the light pink one, and there's like 3 of them, but and I just called it last valid string. Last valid string is referring to the last string that had only valid characters in it. So there's no way, at least that I know of, to make a text box actually only accept alpha characters, right? Like alphabetical characters, or I don't know if that's the proper term, but letters, right? So you don't want necessarily symbols or numbers. In that case, well, that would be tough. I don't think there's any way to do one for any of those 3 cases. However, what we can do is we can check if it's a number, letter, or symbol, or whatever, and then we can actually set it to be the last string that we have. If we type anything else into the box that is not that value, so if we type in 12 for our strength, great, and I type the letter B, well, we don't want to accept that character, so what we can do is just revert to our last valid string, and I think that makes sense. So the way we do that, pull off your text. I think you can do it right. Whoops, I don't know what that was. My bad. Type is numeric. No, you're gonna have to convert it first. Okay, so pull off your text, convert it to a string, right here. You'll get this little node right here. Text the string. Pull off string and do is numeric. There you go. That's this right here. This is going to determine if it's a number. Okay, so that'll take care of that part for you. I also went ahead and checked if the text is empty. The reason I check for this is because if the text is empty, we don't want to revert the progress we made, okay? So what I mean by that, it's still a valid string for text to be nothing. It's not a letter or a symbol or anything we're trying to get rid of. So empty, or if it's a number, or, this is a Boolean or, so just drag off a bool, or, right here. Drag it to your branch. In your branch, if it's true that it's either a number or empty text, then valid string. This is a valid string. So we're going to set the valid string to be the text that's currently in the text box. If not, we want to set the text within the text box to be, and it takes in a target. So you can drag off the left side here in your variables. Your text boxes and stuff will be variables by default. If for whatever reason they're not, they always have been for me. If they're not, you can click on the text box and right up here is variable, hit a check mark, and it'll be a variable, so you can use it within the blueprint graph. Okay. So drag from here, bring your little text box guy in, get him, set text. Right here. That's this node right here. And we want to set the text to the last valid string. There you go. And that'll make it so you can only put numbers in your text box when you're typing. Now, we need to actually make something happen when they commit the text, when they press enter, when they hit OK on another button, whatever. We want to make it so that their strength that they put in actually gets recorded. The name that they put in actually gets recorded. So how we're going to do that? And again, this would be very easy to do in code. It's a little complicated in Blueprint. Probably easier in code. I don't like mixing them, so some are in Blueprint, some are in code when you're referring to the same widget. So here we are. Okay, so on text committed. We're going to take our text. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to check if it's a number. You don't really have to do this since we did do the check in on changed. However, I'd still recommend it in case for whatever reason something gets screwed up and you get a non-number in there. Well, your strength is going to be garbage data now because you're going to have letters in there. Oh, my strength is AB27. I don't know what that means. Now I can't do any of my calculations with it. You're probably going to crash down the line. So I'd recommend doing this. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our values that we have from our character, and we're going to actually set them as well. So we're going to get our player character. Right click, get player character. Easy. And you can do get owning player, by the way, here. Just make sure if you do this, the get owning player, that you did actually set your player character in the level blueprint when we spawn the widget. That's where that comes into play. Either way, that's probably the better way to do it, but you know, it's a single player game for now, and not planning on getting that far into it at the moment. So get player character, make sure you drag off and cast to your code class. Mine is Gears of War template character. Whatever your code class you made the stats, values, the current level, all that stuff in. Cast to that. If the cast succeeds, the top node here, and here again, if it's a number, then we're going to do some logic here. This is the most important part for what we're doing right now. This stuff afterward is, I mean, it's important, but it's not very hard to understand. So this is what we have to go through. So, if it's true that this cast succeeded, if this is a Gears of War template character, then we're going to go ahead and see if we can take the text that was in the text box, so 12, and assign it to our character's strength. To do this, we need a few things here. So drag out of your template character and look for your upgrade points variable right here and your strength value, or whatever stat you're trying to change. Also, should be noted, make sure you build right here and compile Unreal if it doesn't hot reload for you. Hit this button. That'll make sure you can actually see these variables in the blueprint. If you don't, you won't be able to, so obviously that's important. Wanted to just mention it again. So we're trying to upgrade our strength. So there's a few things we want to check. We want to check and make sure our upgrade points plus our strength value. Okay, upgrade points plus strength value. And I'll probably write this down along the side somewhere so you can see the actual math. But we want to look and make sure that the text value that we have, the number that we have, is able to be reached from the current strength value we're at. So I set all my values to 1 in the code, in the constructor, right here, 1. So if we want, and we have 5 upgrade points by default, remember that. So we could reach 6 in any one category and it would work. Anything over that we would not be able to reach. So you could handle that however you want, like either make it go to the highest it can go and then cap the rest or whatever. I decided to not let them, well, they can enter the value, but it won't update the strength. Normally you'd probably display an error message afterward if it's too high and your upgrade points won't let you reach it. Otherwise, we want to use the points that are required to reach it and then save the rest in our upgrade points so we can upgrade another stat. So here's how the math goes. So this value right here off this node, if you follow it back, is the text that we entered. So this is the number the player entered. We want to make sure that the upgrade points plus our current strength value minus the value they're trying to reach is greater than or equal to 0. What that means is we will be able to add all the upgrade points we have to the current strength value we have, and it'll be greater than the value of that value they entered. Okay, so if we do a little bit of math on the side here, and why not? I'll just pull up Paint. We'll do something a little out of the ordinary. Okay, so say our current strength is 1, which it is. We have 5 upgrade points. So UP. Oh, that's terrible. Strength. Okay. And then entered. Ent for entered was 12. Okay. If we were trying to do this, then what you would actually do is add these two together. So you have 6. You're trying to reach 12. So 6 minus 12 is -6, less than 0. Oh, we can't do that. If this value, and let's see if I can actually erase this properly. If this value was instead, let's say 4. Oh. I'm really bad at paint, so there we go. It's the first time actually doing this. So I think I had a pen before, now I have a pencil. There we go, that's what it was. So anyway, we have 6 minus 4. This value is greater than 0. You know, it equals 2. So thus, we can upgrade. That's the reason I wanted to show you that. The math is a bit weird, right, to get through your head, but I think that makes sense. I'm also just making sure, and you don't have to do this. Sometimes you are allowed to downgrade your stats so that you can reallocate your stats and put them somewhere else. But I did also put an and here and make sure that the value that the player entered is greater than their current strength value before we allow them to do it. So if it's greater than their current strength value and we can actually reach it with our upgrade points, then we go to a branch. If this is true, then we set our upgrade points to the difference between the value they entered and our strength value plus upgrade points. Remember, we had 2 in paint. That means we had 2 upgrade points left, 2 upgrade points remaining after we did that. So we set our new upgrade points to that value. Then we set our strength value to the value that they entered. You see, it comes off this. That's all this is. I set the text to enter strength value. Since this is on text changed and it's getting reverted, you don't actually see this. We could do something to make this work. This part's not necessarily important, but go ahead and set a text if you want, a default text, in case they enter or they exit out of it right away. That way it has something there as opposed to nothing. It might look better. Enter strength value, easy. Then I set the last valid string back to empty. Essentially that's just saying, okay, now our new last valid string is 0. That way if they go to type something again, it doesn't actually mean that it's going to pop up with whatever numbers they had last, but instead it's going to show an empty box. It's just a clean little way to have a nice little strength UI or whatever stats you're trying to have and actually be able to upgrade them. So let's go ahead and just real quick show our strength value and our upgrade points. So I'll just put in our upgrade points. We'll do some math on the fly and make sure that it's working as intended. So we have 5 upgrade points by default. Our strength is 1 by default. If I upgrade to 4, I should have 2 upgrade points left. And I should have a new strength of 4. So let's look at the output log. 2. We have 2 upgrade points left. So that worked. Now, We're going to go back in here. Whoops. We're going to go back in here. We're going to now print out the strength that we currently have. And hold up. We're now going to print out the strength that we have once the operation is done, just to show you that this works. So now, back to the defaults. Upgrades, we have 5 upgrade points, and we have a strength of 1. So we can go all the way to 6. Our new strength is 6. Now if I try and make it 7, you see... Oh yeah, well it doesn't print anything because it failed, right? We can actually play it again without using our upgrade points and make it something too high, like 10, I can't reach it. You can see 10 never printed because we cannot reach 10. So just to wrap it up here, I'll show you one final example. So if we have false here, we can print the strength here, show our current strength value. Okay, so go back here, pull this up. We say 8, and look, it failed. Our strength is still 1 because we weren't able to go to 8 with our current upgrade points. So normally there, instead of just printing a random string and value, you would throw your error like, hey, you don't have enough points to do this. But I just didn't get to that. I figured showing it would be a pretty good way to clear that up, though. So guys, I know this was a long episode. There was a lot that we had to clean up and kind of explain to kind of make aware of what was going on here. So we went from the third person to action RPG, and it's like, that's kind of a weird change. But when you think about it, we can equip weapons and add them to our inventory. We have health and shields, like health and armor, whatever. We have the ability to heal and take damage, the ability to sprint, and now we have abilities to set stats, level up, all that stuff. So I think it's going to work out really well, and hopefully this wasn't too confusing for you guys. We'll be going to the... I want to say we'll probably work on actually getting experience. That way we can level up in real time. That way we can see, oh, we leveled up, we got upgrade points, now we can upgrade. I will be going over these two in the next episode, the slider bar and the buttons, if you'd like to use either of them in your stat assignment stuff. Lastly, we will go over how to pop up the level up window separately, as opposed to, so have one in the main menu and then have one when you level up. Alright guys, so that was a mouthful. I am going to wrap up the tutorial there, but I just want to say, everybody, thanks for watching this series. If you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. The Discord is very helpful. We got 80 members, and they're all very helpful people who can help you with any issues you have, including myself. We can use pictures and videos as well to maybe explain things better than I can over a video, or better than we can over YouTube comments. So the Discord link is in the description. Feel free to join. We'd love to have you in the community. As for anything else, if you want to come see me play some video games, other action RPGs such as Dark Souls, and be very bad at it because it's the first time that I'm playing through it, then go ahead and check us out on Shawnthebro 27 on Twitch. Yeah, I know, someone took my name, so I got weird numbers at the end of it. But anyway, go ahead and check that out. And yeah, I'd love to see you there. We just got started about 3 months ago, so we're still relatively new, but I'd appreciate the support. Anyway, guys, I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one.